Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dokkan Battle video, and today we have a video about a very interesting survey that Dokkan just put out. So I wanted to go ahead and do like kind of my thoughts on the survey, talk about some of the answers I picked, and maybe some answers I would recommend maybe other people put in. But I thought there was some incredibly interesting questions on here that really hit on some of the things we've been talking about and maybe complaining about in the community. And I do think Dokkan does listen to these surveys, so I do recommend everybody fill this out, especially if you have some strong opinions as I do on some of these topics. So I've gone through and filled out my answers, but I wanted to kind of review some of the most interesting questions on there, right? Don't worry about that age part. You guys didn't see that. So they just ask a lot of questions about, like, did you watch the promotional stuff? How did you hear about the worldwide celebration? Why did you like a character? Why did you not like a character? So all that stuff is like kind of normal stuff. I'm not really too intrigued to like talk about that in depth, right? It's just, did you like the characters or not? They do ask a lot about like the animations. Do you think they're powerful enough? The one thing I would say is like, if there was a specific character like maybe the Trunks or maybe like Vegito Blue before transformation, like if you weren't happy with their passives, like there is a question, the super attack and skill descriptions, you can say that you were not happy with that or that made you not want to summon for the character. That will hopefully encourage them to make characters better, right? But I'm going to go through here, and there was some really interesting things I want to talk about down the line. Yeah, they want to know if the animations were good, all of that stuff, right? Okay, so here they ask about the domain feature. So what they're trying to gauge is it a good mechanic? Do people like it? I personally enjoy the domain feature. So I said that I agree and that I like all the stuff with domain. I said I want to see it more in the future. I enjoyed using it with certain characters. I think domains do open up team building for characters, especially somebody like Zamasu who kind of like protects the party. I feel like, well, he doesn't protect a party, but he protects himself, right? But what if they did a domain that gave the whole rotation damage reduction? Like, then you're talking about making maybe characters more viable that aren't as defensively viable. I think domain has a ton of potential. And because Dragon Ball happens in so many different locations, I feel like almost any character you could find a way to give them a domain, right? So I think that's very cool. All right. They asked some questions about EZAs, and I really think these are important ones, right? So the first one is please select the most important element for you in EZA. I don't have the other options up here, but there are options about like, I think one option was strengthen the character's current kit. So basically like keep the character how they are, but make them stronger. And then another one, the one that I think that you should do is strengthen a character to make the character compatible with new characters that arrive in the same period. So that was kind of my thought, is that we need to make them work. So like if I easy other characters, I want them to work with like the new Dokkan Fest, right? And things like that. Like I want them to work really well with that. And then it said, please select the two most important elements for you, for characters who can be recruited. So here they're kind of asking about like free-to-play characters. And I think what this is all stemming from is there were some EZAs, like say maybe Inkoku Black, that people weren't happy with that, right? Or like free-to-play characters that maybe we feel like they weren't good enough and they can't do anything in current content, right? So they're asking like, what is our opinion on that? So for here, for free-to-play characters, to me, I feel like the two most important ones are this: being effective in specific team formations, even when playing in high difficulty events. So I think what they're getting at here, to me, this reminds me of like some of my Dragon Ball Saga free-to-play units. But the idea is make free-to-play characters good in high difficulty events, but you have to maybe use them in very specific ways. And I think that's fine. Like restricting a free-to-play character to a certain team or a certain rotation, but then make them good in high difficulty events, right? And then the second one I thought was incredibly important for free-to-play units: being able to support characters recruitable from summon events. So the idea is if I'm grinding out a free-to-play character, they should be there to support some of the new summonable characters to make them very good, right? So an example would be like we have Dokkan Fest Turles right now, right? Well, they have a farmable STR free-to-play Turles. The problem is he doesn't check either of these boxes because he isn't good in high difficulty events. Like he's just not good enough, right? He's got a little bit of dodge, but you have to have multiple enemies. And then he doesn't really do anything to support Turles because he doesn't link with Turles. He's got the same name. So like that's kind of a problem, right? So we want from free-to-play units, either characters that link really well or support or both, right? And then can maybe hang in high difficulty events. So we look at free-to-play Yamcha, free-to-play Bulma, like these are really good examples of characters that can kind of work well in difficult events, okay? All right, so then it says, select the functions or content you would like to see most in the future. Now, I really enjoyed this question. So, and they've hit on this a couple times. They've been asking, do you want to strengthen EZA characters? I actually personally kind of do. I think they could just have a lot of fun with it. I don't know if it would be like EZA 3, but I think they should come out with some way to just like, once you get past EZA, and it might be something where you get like a limited resource, and it could just be anybody that's had an EZA for maybe a certain time period, you can just buff stats or something. So like maybe they don't get new kits, but you can just increase the stats enough that the characters are viable, and something that just artificially increases stats of like previous EZA units, I think could be good enough, right? So like, could you imagine a unit like say Int or STR Janemba, these units that like guard and dodge, but you can just give them a ton of stats to like compete, something like that. So here's all the options they give you. More growth for EZA characters, events where the enemy changes as you continue battle, able to enhance your favorite character stats to a certain extent, a system that rewards you based on your purchases, a system that rewards you based on your gaming progress. So I thought that the events where the enemies change as you continue the battle, I didn't really care for that. I feel like we've got stuff like that already. I didn't feel like that was important. A system that rewards you based on your purchases, I did not pick that one either, because like for someone like me or like super mega whales like Truth, it's really great for them, but I would rather them implement something that's going to be good for the entire player base, so whether you spend money or not, right? I think a system that rewards you based on your gaming progress, I liked picking that one because I think there should be more rewards maybe for the players that have a high power level, right? There are players that spend a lot of time grinding power level, and there's really no reward for it other than like you could just get to say you have a high power level. So what I'm alluding to that is I want something to help power level, or like to reward players for having power level, right? And then able to enhance your favorite character stats to a certain extent. This kind of goes in line with what I was talking about the EZA ones. Either, you know, if they decide they want to do EZA 3, sure, but like maybe something, but even if there's just something where I can just artificially buff the stats, and that's what I was talking about before. So to me, those first two are kind of similar in that I think the solution for strengthening EZA characters could be that you can just increase the stats. And once again, I don't know what that would look like, but they would have to limit it. They can't just say any EZA character, because you don't want like a brand new EZA to then all of a sudden become stronger. You have to balance the game. But they could just release them in packs, right? So for example, let's say they do the first quote-unquote EZA 3, but it's not an EZA 3. They just say, here's a new item that you can use points to just increase stats on characters, and they could maybe limit how high they go. But you can only do any of the characters that were like the original 70% leads or something. Maybe they start with them as like a package, and you could just take those characters and like buff their stats. And then with their base kits, like their kits are still going to be fairly simple, but maybe the raw stat boost alone could make them usable, right? It could be a fun thing. I also get people that maybe don't agree with adding on to EZAs because, yeah, maybe at some point the characters just have to permanently be dead, and sure, that would be fine too, because there are a lot of characters in Dokkan. But I think it just adds more fun to the game. Like, and they don't have to be top tier, but even if they're just like semi-usable, I think it could be fun. All right. And then, if you have any other thoughts regarding functions or content you would like to see, please write them here. And of course, I have to bring up the friend system, because I do not feel the friend system has been fixed. It has definitely been improved, but it is still an issue. They do have bots in there now, or like mod accounts that will like show up, but it's based on like if people have cleared that event with that leader before. That's not a solution, because there's still leaders you may want to run, right? Like if I want to run a Universe 6 team, and maybe I want to use Tech Cal and Khalifa as the leader for whatever reason, whether it be for testing or whatever, but like or like Physical Beerus is going to easy in. Maybe I want to run him as the leader, even though there's better Realm of Gods leads, but I want like a full Beerus team, and I want to try out that synergy, right? Like, if nobody has cleared the content with that leader and nobody's running it, like, you still can't find it. And so what I'm encouraging them to do here is I said, make it so you can always run the same leader as the one you have assigned. So I don't care if it's a 55%, like, SA1. Like, I just need the option to run the leader I want to run. And it is such a huge problem, because there are characters like, say, Raditz, right? Where, like, sure, we know he's terrible, But there's people that still want to use Raditz. They're big fans of Raditz. They maybe want to try them out in lower tier content and run like a double Raditz lead. Maybe you just want to say, hey, what does a Saiyan Saga team look like right now? And I want to run the Raditz lead for that. Like, you just can't even do that. And to me, part of the fun of Dokkan is going into older events and just having fun with teams, even if they're not top tier meta. Like, it's fun to go into the God event, the Legendary Vegeta event, even Legendary Goku event if the team isn't good enough. But it's fun just to play with characters, try out synergies, things like that. Because realistically, like, the new hard thing that comes out, you only have to beat it once. And then there might be a couple of missions and you beat it maybe 2 to 3 times. But really, you don't have to do, like, anytime you're playing Dokkan for fun, most players, like, you grind out the new content quick and then you don't really have any new things to do. So when you're playing Dokkan, you're just playing events for fun with teams. So there's no rule that says you have to go into Red Zone Zamasu every time. But I could go into Legendary Goku event, whatever, have fun. But if I can't find the leader, I can't, like, play around and have fun with those teams. So to me, that's like the biggest issue Dokkan still needs to fix, right? And I think that was pretty much the end of the survey. But the things I was really excited about here were really them talking about growth beyond EZA. And once again, I know some players' opinions will differ on that. I'm pretty sure Truth is against it, but I think it would actually be fun. EZA is my favorite thing about Dokkan. And if we could get more of that, I definitely would be all for it. And yeah, and I think the idea of, like, talking about, like, what the role of EZA characters and free-to-play characters are, I think just getting that correct, I think, is a good thing moving forward. So anyways, guys, let me know what you think about these topics. Let me know if you did the survey. It is worth it, by the way, for everyone to go in and do the survey, because you do get 7 stones. So you definitely want to go fill it out and you know, answer honestly about how you feel. So thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.